Welcome to another episode of Hall Talk. My name is Schreibman and my panelists will join me shortly. But first, women's basketball has released their conference schedule this past week. How will transfers like Denasia Fountain impact the team? Our experts will preview and predict. Next, men's soccer has lost 3 in a row out on the pitch after a successful start to the season. With conference play coming up, what adjustments do they need to make? And finally, women's soccer heads into conference play winless. How can they pick up their first win? Stay tuned. This is Hall Talk. And welcome back to the show. We have a lot to get to, so let's introduce my panel for the evening. Matt, Ambrose, TJ Mills, how are you guys doing?
I'm good.
Good to be here.
All right, let's get right into it. Women's basketball releases their conference schedule, which makes their full schedule released for the upcoming season. What's your overall reaction, we'll start with Matt, to the full schedule?
They're doing a lot to really challenge themselves. We've seen these power conference matchups in the non-conference for the Pirates. Their first one comes at Wake Forest on November 12th. Followed up with it's not a Power 5, but a team they've played in the last couple of years of Princeton, a team that just 3 years ago went undefeated in the regular season. Then you have a Boston College team on the road, ACC team, and the tough one, the 17th at Walsh Gymnasium, a UCLA team that went 25-9 last year and made it to the Sweet 16 before losing to UConn. So that's going to be the game right before Big East play starts to really prove what this team can do this year.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the Big East here. Last year we were 14-4 versus the Big East. I think that's somewhere where we can really improve. We did end the year off on a good note. We did beat Providence and lost to a very good DePaul team. 12-19 overall last season. I think if we can bump it up to 500, that would be really good.
And a lot of new individuals coming in. It's really a transfer year. Denasia Fountain comes in. A lot of guard play, Matt. We were talking about this in the pre-show. Who's going to rebound for this team?
you don't really know. I mean, the rebounder for this team the last couple of years has been Libertia Gordon. She's gone now. So you look to Jayla Jones-Pack, and you also look to the freshman Kimmy Evans, 13.4 points per game in her senior year of high school. She comes in, a 6'4 center, hopefully will give a rebounding presence to this team. You also mentioned the guard play. I feel like this is a guard-heavy team. Denasia Fountain coming in from Temple. You have Jaquan Jackson, Kayla Hilaire. Players like that, this is going to be a team that's going to score in bunches, but can they rebound the basketball? That's going to be the key if they can win.
And TJ, speaking of the players coming back, Jaquan Jackson coming back third in the Big East in scoring last year at 15.3 points per game, a 3-time member of the Big East Weekly Honor Roll. Kayla Hilaire also coming back now, has a season under her belt, was named to a unanimous selection to the Big East All-Freshman team. As guards coming back, knowing Tony Bazzella's system, especially Hilaire with one year under her belt, what are the keys for them to really kickstart this team right out of the gate?
Well, just as Matt said, I expect this team, especially with the ton of guards, to be a run and gun team. 3-and-D, got to pop those when you have the chance, and then run back on defense. Do what you're supposed to do.
Coach B plays a transition style. What are you looking for in conference play, Matt? I know you talked about non-conference. They do have a 3-game road trip at the end of conference play. They open and close with DePaul. The Big East is tough.
The open and close is going to be the key. They start their first 2 games on the road against the 2 teams that met up in the Big East title game last year, at DePaul, then at Big East champion Marquette to start Big East play. Then they get a 3-game homestand in the middle of it against Nova, Georgetown, and St. John's. But the end of Big East play, the end of their regular season slate, is very, very key. 3-game road trip at Georgetown, at Villanova, at St. John's, then back in Walsh Gymnasium against Marquette and DePaul. The same 2 teams they open with, they close with. That 5-game stretch to end the year could make or break their season.
So the team that won 4 games a year ago in conference play, what are you looking for to improve that? Speaking of the 3-game road trip, that's very difficult.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot of adversity for this team to break through that 3-game and then come back and face the 2 teams that they started off the Big East with. So I look to see that we have a good improvement over the year.
And a Villanova team in that road trip as well that came to Walsh Gym last year and smacked that Pirates team, really just making shots left and right. It was just an absolute blowout. So that's a team that Pirates team had trouble with. Their defense has to step up. I really, though, think it really comes down to, can this team rebound the basketball? Is Kimmy Evans the freshman, enough of a force in the post to grab rebounds enough to help this Pirates team.
A great recruit for Coach B, and let's get into that debate. Is this team bringing in more than they lost? They're bringing in Denasia Fountain from Temple, who was second team all-conference last year, averaged just over 14 points a game, shot over 35% from beyond the arc last year, which is huge. A lot of perimeter shooting, especially in a transition style. Is this team bringing in more than they lost with transfers like Fountain and recruit like Evans?
I think they just took a strength they had and just made it stronger, which is a good thing. Not to knock Coach Bozzella or anything. He got more scoring on this team, but when it comes right down to it, next to scoring, the most important thing in the game of basketball, you have to rebound the basketball. Mm-hmm. And this team struggled with it big time last year. They weren't out-rebounded by a little bit last year in certain games. They lost games, and there was a huge, huge rebounding margin between the Pirates and their opponent. They have to correct that this year.
TJ, quickly, did they lose too much rebounding to be successful?
I think they probably gained it a little bit more with Kimmy Evans. I think she's a real good point that adds to this team.
And now we'll move on from the hard court into the pitch. Men's soccer, 3-5-1 on the season now. They had a great start to the non-conference play, but has since lost 3 games in a row. They lost to Delaware and St. John's, both shut out, and then they recently lost at Lehigh. What's gone missing with this team after a fantastic start to non-conference play?
I think the thing that's been consistent with this team has been their defense. Mm-hmm. The offense has gone away. 1 goal in this 3-game losing streak so far, and that 3-match win streak they had just a week ago, I had this campus going like, oh, this men's soccer team finally is getting their legs under them, and they're finally getting some wins. Then all of a sudden, it just came crashing down. The offense isn't getting going. Defenses are shutting down Andres Arcilla at the midfield. Any balls upfield towards Jimenez or any of the other forwards, they're just not connecting on their passes, and they can't get any chances up on the offensive half.
Arcilla's had a fabulous start to the season. I understand they have been shutting him down lately. What, besides Arcilla, obviously he's the player that everyone's looking for, what's your key for this team moving forward? Because now they head straight into the conference play for the rest of the season.
Well, my point is here that we need to put points on the board. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of shots on goal this year, one of the top in the Big East, and we're not putting it through. And Coach has said, you got to put these shots through, and eventually you keep chipping and chipping away. You'll score goals, and that's what this team needs to do.
Well, Matt mentioned earlier, only 1 goal scored during their 3-game losing streak after they were shut out in back-to-back games. It's unfortunate for Seton Hall moving forward, but let's talk about the goalkeeping situation. It's been a heavy debate so far this season, Mumford versus Cadoodle. Who do you think should start? Is it Mumford?
I think it's clear as day. It has to be Mumford. He was the goalkeeper during that 3-match win streak. He dominated. He had that shutout. He needs to be the guy in net for Jerson Echeverry, and for some reason they keep going back to Cadoodle and putting him in the net. Munford's been the guy. Plain and simple, he needs to be the guy in net for this Pirates team if they want to turn it around.
They've had Cadoodle in net for the past few games. TJ, Mumford has a lower goals against average and a better record at 3-0-0. What's any justification for starting Cadoodle in net the past few games?
You know, I honestly think that there isn't, to be honest. I'm sorry to say it, but I think Mumford has it. You don't go with you always go with the hot hand. You don't change goalies like that ever. So I think Mumford's got it.
They start their full conference slate ahead with Marquette on the road Saturday. It's going to be an interesting decision who's in net. Real quickly, an X factor besides Arcia, besides the goalkeeper, for this team to pick it back up.
I think it's got to be Jimenez in the front, getting that attack going. This team is really, especially on Saturday against St. John's, passes weren't connecting. They were getting movement upfield, they just weren't connecting on passes. I think Jonathan Jimenez needs to receive more passes up in the open field, get more space, and create more chances.
I believe it's going to be Spencer Burkhart. You know, we had that one goal earlier in the season where he was right in the box and scored that beautiful header from a corner. I think he needs to get in the box a little bit more.
This is a Seton Hall team that has to get started early. We saw in the Delaware game they were outshot 7 of 8 shots right from the get-go. Even in the St. John's game, it took them 25 minutes to even get playing. I know, Matt, you called that game, so you're pretty aware with that. Let's go over to the women's side. The women's team winless so far through non-conference season. They start their conference play at 0-6-2. They've recently just lost to Harvard 3-0. Men's soccer has had offense. Women's soccer has not.
No, they have not, and they've also really struggled defensively too. Anna McLean's a good goalkeeper, but the defense in front of her hasn't really been doing her many favors, especially in that loss to Harvard over the weekend. They just need to step it up all over the pitch, offensively, defensively, they just need to find more consistency. They haven't had it at all this year.
TJ, they start conference play this week. What's your key for Seton Hall heading forward?
You know, I think we have some games that we can win versus Providence and Butler and Marquette at home. I think those are the steps that we need to take as compared to last year. And same advice I give to them as I give to the men. Put points on the board. That Harvard game, absolutely terrible. You didn't put any points on the board. McLean got a little hot-headed in the second half, yelling at her teammates, trying to defend. She has no defense in front of her.
Taylor Cutcliffe has been there, though, as the prime defender. I think she's had a terrific season so far.
She has. It just hasn't been enough of a group effort. I think this team hasn't really figured out yet how to play as a team. There's a player here and there that could put in a good effort for this squad, but they just haven't played as a team yet. They haven't put it all together. And until they do that, they're not going to win. They're just not going to win.
And another player that's been playing extremely well so far, despite winless through the non-conference season, is Katie Landis. She has played extremely well. What does she have to do from the middle of the field to help Seton Hall?
I think she needs to get more passes through. And, she's been doing great this far, and you just need to attack sometimes, and that's what she needs to do.
And so they're starting conference play. Let's do a quick prediction segment. Can this team get a win, Matt?
One, maybe. I can't pinpoint where, but they'll probably just have that night here or there, I don't know where, that they're just going to figure it out. Maybe. But going into conference play, I don't have much to be excited about.
TJ, real quickly, does this team get a win?
I think so. Either, like I said, versus Providence, Butler, or Marquette on our home turf.
All right, thank you guys for joining me. The women's soccer team at DePaul this upcoming week, and then they are home against Butler after that, so they do return to O&T Carroll Field. Both soccer teams, now starting their conference play. That's it for the rest of the season for women's basketball. It's going to be interesting to see how a lot of guard play is moving forward. And thank you guys again for joining me, and make sure to stay tuned for next week's episode of Hall Talk.